I've been getting it since the Tyler. I keep dollars on my head. Been a real one is my motto. Handle my problems, I ain't scared.
Yo, welcome back, Pacer Nation, Pacer Station fans everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, today I have a very, very, very special video. Today, it's podcast episode 3. Before I start the podcast, I would like to announce the winner, the highly anticipated winner of the Reggie Miller giveaway we did on Twitter, at Burbridge Miles. You are the winner. You have been selected randomly out of a decent sized group of people. About 30 something people participated in the giveaway. Thank you to everybody who participated. Keep following us on all social media platforms for more giveaways in the future. But yeah, today's podcast, today is the third podcast episode here at Pacer Station. Basically, you can consider it the schedule reveal episode. They just recently announced the schedule here at what the Indiana Pacers schedule will be in the NBA. They announced everyone's schedule in the NBA, actually. Don't know why I just said the Pacers, but yeah. And I brought on a special guest today, a new member of Pacer Station. We'll get to him later in the video. We'll have a nice little discussion with him, chop it up with him about everything Pacers right now. But before we get to that, I'd like to just give my complete outlook on the channel at the moment, where we're going, where we're headed, and where we're at. Thank you to everybody who's showing love thus far. There's been a lot of love that I wasn't expecting. We're at about 73 subscribers or so already in just about a week. So thank you to everybody. Keep spreading the channel. After this podcast, I think the next video you'll see from me will be a 2K gameplay. I'll probably go live here in a few days. I'll announce what day it'll be on Twitter and such. But yeah, I'll be going live here. Talk to y'all as I play with Pacers on NBA 2K. If anyone wants to add me on PS4, Cam Major 16, CAMMAJOR 16 is my PSN. Also, we'll be attending some Pacers games next season, hopefully, if they're having fans in the stands by 2021. We'll get some vlogs, etc. I'm going to do a lot of stuff for Pacers community, period. So, yeah, like I've been saying, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like this video. Comment below what content y'all want to see. And let's get to the discussion. So now, introducing our special guest, a new member of Pacer Station. He's going to be here a few podcasts, a few different discussion episodes to talk about everything Pacer statistics, analytics, analysis, period. In general, he's got a great photographic memory for the sport of basketball. From the city of Indianapolis, welcome, Mr. Coach J. Coach J, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So tell us how you feel about the schedule that just released, the 8-game regular season schedule that we're going to finish it off, and what you think our record will be.
Yeah, as most Pacers conspiracy theorists, if you want to call it that, would say, I think the Pacers got a pretty tough schedule. However, if Brogdon returns in a timely manner from his COVID, and
Right.
if Victor decides to play, I predict the Pacers will finish with a 6-2 record.
6-2. That's awesome. What do you think about the first game facing the 76ers?
I think the Pacers will be much more mentally prepared. Of course, this year that's been no secret every time they played the Sixers, because Joel Embiid's always picked up some sort of a flagrant foul, trying to wrestle with Sabonis down there. So, depending on Philly's health, I'd have to take a look at the injury report before the game starts.
Right.
But I think Philly benefited a lot from the shutdown as well, because I think Embiid and Simmons were both hurt when the season got called. So
Right, they were. Right.
So I got to think that it'll be a close game, but I think the Pacers will be better prepared for no fans. I think they'll be better prepared for the unique atmosphere of having a really quiet arena. And most importantly, I think their chemistry is so tight that I don't see there being any overlap. It all depends on who's playing and who's not.
For sure. How do you feel about the possibility of Justin Holiday, big player off the bench, possibly sitting out for the rest of
Justin
the
or
year?
Aaron?
Justin.
Justin?
Yes.
You know, it's funny. I've heard that a lot of the reason that players are sitting out, you know, it can be for a variety of reasons. I personally am going to go with the theory that if he chooses to sit out, it'll most likely be because I think he's one of maybe 2 players on the roster that have a wife and kids.
Right.
So being down in a bubble for 3 months away from your wife and child is not an optimal way. I mean, I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine being a parent and having separated from your family for 3 months, essentially, depending on how far you go in the playoffs. But
Right.
I think
Definitely not ideal. It's not ideal.
no, and I think if he sits out, the biggest thing we're going to lose from him is the intangibles. Everything that he gives us goes beyond the stat book.
For sure.
He, you know, when Victor's on the bench or Brogdon's on the bench, he can harass the other team's best perimeter player. You know, I mean, he's not a Kawhi Leonard by any stretch, but I do think he can hold his own against, you know, the Paul Georges, the LeBron Jameses, and the Kawhi Leonards.
Absolutely.
You know, you can certainly he's certainly serviceable for, you know, 5 or 10 minutes a game on the best player. And I think that's the biggest thing you would miss from him. I don't think people would miss his shooting as much because the Pacers have Aaron Holiday, they have Dougie McBuckets who can always hit shots.
Yes, sir, Dougie McBuckets.
And I've got a feeling Miles is going into this playoffs with a chip on his shoulder because there's a lot of uncertainty, you know, regarding trade rumors. I heard that he was almost moved, or there was talk that he was going to get moved at the deadline for Aaron Gordon.
Right.
So
I saw that
everywhere. Yeah, so there's a lot of and Miles going prior to the shutdown was playing really well. I remember there was a game against the Celtics. I think it was the last game we played before the season got shut. And he had a couple of post-ups against Jason Tatum that were looks that I haven't seen him give since Frank Vogel was here, because he had a pretty good rookie season, but since then he's really struggled to develop, and I think a lot of that has to do with the players he's playing with.
Right. I was actually going to ask you.
The ball's not in his hands.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask you, actually, how do you feel about the front court as a whole entering this 8-game stretch? I know a lot of people don't like the idea of Sabonis and Miles Turner playing together as a young front court. How do you feel about the front court as a whole, including Goga?
Well, during the regular season, as far as I can tell, it works. Right. The question is, can it hold up in the playoffs? I think the Pacers, had they had Victor healthy this whole season, would have won 55 games. That would have been my prediction. And that's with the 2 big guys. Now, if they play Miami, I think the 2 big guys will hold their own pretty well. I think the Miami Heat they tend to play big too. They've got Adebayo, they got Olynyk, and they've got Myers Leonard, who are all 7-footers who can, who can play inside and out, but are primarily interior players. So if we match up with Miami, I don't think we'll get exposed as much. However, if we match up against the Boston Celtics, who start Hayward and Tatum up front with Daniel Tice, I think those guys will chew Miles Turner and Sabonis up and spit them out. That's what happened last year.
Absolutely.
My prediction. Ultimately the proof is in the pudding. If the front court can hold up in the playoffs, and what my definition of that is, if the Pacers can get out of the first round of the playoffs this season with the double big guy combination, I think they'll keep them. But I actually have friends who work for the Pacers, and I've heard all last summer that they were seriously trying to move Miles Turner.
Yeah, I've been hearing all the talk about Miles Turner and stuff. There's been a lot of people, a lot of Pacers fans think that he should be traded. But a lot of them think that
It,
if he was on any other team, he'd be an all-star, which I could see that too.
well, and let's be honest. I mean, when the Pacers are 100% healthy, where is the ball usually? It's usually in the hands of Oladipo or
Exactly.
Sabonis.
Oladipo,
So
yeah.
if Miles is never in the post. That's not his job here. To a certain extent, Miles Turner is suffering from the same type of situation that Sabonis was suffering from in Oklahoma City. His job is to protect the basket, rebound, and shoot threes. I am 100% positive that he can flourish somewhere else. And honestly, if our front court gets exposed in the playoffs, I think they should trade him. But just to be clear, it's not an I don't like Miles. We need a different piece in a different spot. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And that's what I tell a lot of fans, because a lot of people say I was calling Miles Turner a little soft and timid in other videos, but he's one of my favorite players in Pacers history. He's not one of the best players in Pacers history, but I'm wearing his jersey right now. There's a lot of things I love, but a person. But he could be a lot better.
He could be, but let me play devil's advocate real quick.
Right.
When I was a kid, I went back and looked at fan reactions to Rick Smits.
Right.
Rick Smits was a 7'4" player, and he's nowadays he's so beloved by the fans.
Absolutely.
And I've actually met Rick. I actually know Rick. I've met him a couple of times. He used to live up in Zionsville on the north side of Indy. But he was a scorer and a shooter. He was not a rebounder and a defender.
Right.
And if social media was around back then, they'd have treated him worse than they treated Miles.
Absolutely. Way worse.
So,
yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make is, on that team, like the 98 team, which I still say is the best Pacers team ever.
For sure.
That wasn't his job. That was the Davis boys' job. It was their job to be tough. It was Rick's job to put points on the board.
Right.
So on the Pacers, as they stand right now, Miles' job is to protect the basket and hit shots. Spread the floor and create space for Sabonis.
Right. He does create a lot. He does spread the floor very well. Knowing Sabonis is I don't think they're that bad together. I think it could work in the long term, but like you said, the playoffs will determine a lot of that.
Yeah, what you do during the regular season is irrelevant. It's whether or not it holds up in the playoffs.
Right.
And personally, if the Pacers struggle in the playoffs, and if I'm Miles Turner's agent, I would look at the situation and say, maybe we should look to trade somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Because with all it's not that Miles is a bad player. It's just that the Pacers have so much other firepower around him.
They do.
That it's hard for him to develop. It's the same reason. I mean, you remember back in the mid-'90s, you had Jermaine O'Neal with the Portland Trail Blazers. It's the same thing.
Right. Exactly.
He was competing for minutes with, Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant, Arvydas Sabonis, Domas's father. And there just wasn't enough shots for him. And
Absolutely.
and I think Miles is in a similar situation here. I've heard two recent rumors that for trades that I do like for the Pacers. If I were Kevin Pritchard, I would my price tag for Miles would be pretty high. But
Absolutely.
if you get exposed in the playoffs, there are I can think of two viable fours who I've heard are on the trade market that would be perfect fits for the Pacers, that I think the Pacers could trade Miles for straight up under the current circumstances.
He would be traded for a four?
For a four who could play alongside Sabonis.
So, right, because a lot of people do see Sabonis as a five.
He is a five. He's, his place is in the paint. That's his job.
Yeah, for sure.
And what you really need to put around him is a I don't like the word spread four, because that, to me, a spread four is just a is Kyle Korver playing the 4 spot.
Exactly.
What we need is a 4 who can switch out on pick and rolls, and match up with somebody like Jason Tatum on switches. And right now, that's the biggest weak spot in our front court. I'm not complaining about the talent, but the two people that as far as I've heard are on the market are one of which might surprise you is Draymond Green.
Ooh, that would be interesting. But his shooting over time has gotten a lot worse. I don't know if that's just part of him being a more importance in Golden State with Curry being out a lot and Thompson being out with injury a lot. Maybe it could be him being the first option.
No, but the reason more times than not, and you saw this with Brogdon earlier in the year with the Pacers. A lot of times when your volume goes up, your shooting percentage goes down. It takes a special player to maintain it no matter what.
Absolutely.
I mean, even Michael Jordan, if you've been watching The Last Dance, you know that, Michael Jordan's shot chart, he was getting up 30 shots a game before they instituted the triangle. When they brought in the triangle, his shot numbers went down, but his efficiency rating doubled.
Right.
So I think if Draymond had played on, if you look at any of the Warriors teams that he played on where everybody was healthy, especially the first team that won the championship, the team with Harrison Barnes and David Lee and all them, I think if you put him in our system, I think he would flourish again. I think he would kind of have a renaissance in his career.
And I could see that because Draymond definitely he will be shooting better. He wouldn't have to be a number one scoring option in Indiana or anywhere close to it. If he just played his role, came here and played his role, could work pick and rolls and such, I think he would be a good fit.
And the other thing that he gives us that we don't really have right now is and this is why I'm so sad we can't sign Lance right now, because the biggest thing the Pacers need, and really the only thing they need as far as personalities are concerned, is they need an instigator. They need somebody who can come in and take the pressure off of everybody else.
Man, I wish we could. I've actually heard, though, people have been correcting me about my video. They've been saying Lance, they instituted another rule saying that if a player was on a G League or an NBA team in the last year or two, that they are eligible to be signed. So if that is possible, I'd love to see Lance. I'd love it.
Well, especially with Jeremy Lamb out, you got to have somebody like that.
Exactly.
But to me, that's the only thing this team is missing, is they need somebody who plays with an edge. And Draymond Green might be the most edgy competitor in the game.
Absolutely.
And from what I've heard, the Golden State Warriors right now are in the midst of the youth movement. So they're trying to get younger, and they've got that Pascal guy who's been stealing minutes from Draymond. Draymond's been irritated about that. He wants to win.
Yeah.
And as you so prominently mentioned in your first video, the Pacers almost never miss the playoffs. So, if he wants to win and he wants to compete for championships, he would be a perfect fit here. And I think I think Draymond is not a scorer at heart. That's not his job. That's not his personality.
No, not at all.
So I think he would be a perfect fit here. I think he would be the perfect big to go high-low with Sabonis. I think he's a terrific rebounder. I think your rebounding numbers would go up with him. His numbers this year haven't been spectacular.
Right. But a lot of that does come with being the number one option on a team where Curry and Thompson are out. He's trying to lead at the same time.
And Nate McMillan has always been a coach who values aggressiveness and toughness. The guy played with Gary Payton.
Right.
So I could see Nate and Draymond working well together.
I can too. For sure.
Now the other guy that I've heard that would be a perfect fit here is, I mentioned earlier, is Aaron Gordon. I heard rumors I heard a lot of rumors that the Spurs have been interested in Miles Turner for some time. Had he been there, I'm sure they would have drafted him.
Right.
I think if you pair him up with Trey Lyles down there, I think that would be a much better fit for Miles as a player than it is right here.
Absolutely.
And and there's no substitute for playing for Greg Popovich
At all.
And I've heard that the Spurs are trying to get rid of DeMar DeRozan. He wants out, and the Spurs are just like the Pacers. If you don't want to be here, you're not going to be there.
Exactly.
So,
for sure.
On Real GM recently, I simulated a deal between the Pacers. It's a 3-team deal between the Pacers, the Spurs, and the Magic. The Spurs would send DeMar DeRozan to Orlando because Orlando's number 1 in defense, last in the league in offense. And Aaron Gordon would go to the Pacers, and Miles Turner would go to the Spurs.
That would be very interesting, and I can honestly see that happening. I feel like it works for all teams.
I feel like that would not. I feel like that would benefit all 3 teams. I feel like there would be, and I feel like Aaron Gordon is on the same timeline with all of our other players.
Absolutely.
I've heard rumors the last 2 summers and the last 2 trade deadlines that the Pacers have been interested in him. So I think at some point he will come here. If we get exposed in the playoffs again by spread 4s, more modern day 4s, I could totally see them moving him.
Absolutely.
And as far as free agency goes, there's another free agent. If what you just said is true and you can get Lance out of China, there's another guy that I like too, who's also playing in China. Kenneth Faried.
I love Kenneth Faried, the Manimal. Man, I used to enjoy watching him play.
My vision for what he could do for us here is similar to what Montrezl Harrell is doing for the Clippers right now.
Shout out Montrezl Harrell, L1C4, Louisville. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. I'm from Louisville.
He could kind of be our Dennis Rodman, our rebounder, our outlet man, a guy who runs the floor in transition.
Right. And honestly, that could be a little bit of what Draymond would be if he were to come to Indiana.
The crazy thing is you could potentially get both of them.
That would be awesome. It'd be very
if I had my first
choice,
I love Draymond more because of the intangibles that he brings. He's a 3-time champion.
Yeah, he has that.
And that's something we don't have on the roster right now.
All right. Absolutely. Well, thank you for coming on. You said you think we'll be 6-2?
I think 6-2. I think the only losses you're going to see on the schedule, I think we'll lose to Houston,
right?
Because they don't have any culture problems right now, and Mike D'Antoni's got the small ball thing going, working beautifully down there. And I think Miami will give us 1 loss.
Right. I feel the same way about the 6-2 part. I think we can beat Houston, but I think we'll lose to. I don't see the Lakers honestly losing in this 8-game stretch at all. And I think we will. I think Miami will give us 1 loss. I think they'll be a good matchup for us though, and I think we could see them in the playoffs.
I would love to see that because, with no fans egging you on, there's not going to be a lot of drama this year.
Right.
You want to see some drama because you want to see passion. As a fan, that's what you always want to see. Sure. I think the Lakers are, the Lakers are interesting because they are, they're used to being in the midst of the action. They're used to having the spotlight on your face. However, I've heard recent reports that there is a rift in the locker room between Dwight Howard and LeBron.
Oh Lord!
And because Dwight's in the Kyrie Irving camp, which is stupid. He wants to sit out.
Right? Yeah, like that's. Don't get me started on Kyrie.
And
talking about starting his own league. Absolutely insane.
And I could totally see LeBron sitting there, and LeBron's in the opposite camp. He wants to play, and he wants to play now.
Right.
So I could easily see LeBron saying, "Fine, you don't want to play, don't play. We don't want you here." But I could see. I'm sure Dwight's not the only one on that Laker roster who feels that way. He's just the only one who shot his mouth off.
I just feel like
So,
LeBron has such a chip on his shoulder right now. It's like the whole season, if like Kobe, with the death of Kobe Bryant, and everyone talking about how if LeBron doesn't get a championship in LA, then he's on a short list of Lakers stars who have never won one. It's just like I feel like he has a lot on his shoulders, and this will be a year for him where I think they'll win the finals.
It'll be interesting. I think Portland will give them a series in the first round. I think that'll be a 7-game series if Portland's their opponent.
Right.
Because Portland's another team like Indiana that totally benefited from the health from health perspective. I think Portland would have been a top 3 seed had they been healthy all year, especially once they got Ariza.
Right.
But I think if the Lakers get tested in the first round, I think you're right. I think that'll happen. But if they end up playing against somebody who doesn't put up a fight, like if nobody puts up a fight with them on their way to the conference finals, then I could see the Clippers kicking them in the teeth and them not being able to respond.
Like I thought the Clippers for a lot of the year, I thought the Clippers were going to be the team just because Kawhi just basically carried the Raptors to a championship. Now we see that Pascal Siakam did have a lot to do with that too, which I saw last year. A lot of people don't give him enough credit for that finals championship. But now, after seeing how the season's unfolded and the way all the dominoes, it seems like, are falling to where LeBron kind of has to win or it'll be a mark on his legacy. But again, of course, there is the side of people that think there's going to be an asterisk on whoever wins the championship. So
exactly, and that I think there are going to be a lot of the Lakers who love seeing the celebrities in the stands. That's the whole reason they played there. Yeah, right. I think the Lakers, especially if they don't adjust well to the bubble, they're one of the furthest teams to travel too.
Absolutely.
So I could totally see. I don't think LeBron will be rattled by it because he's LeBron.
Right.
But the question is, will his teammates show up? And that's why I think you're going to see a lot of upsets in the playoffs this year. Because
right.
At the very least, you're going to see a lot of competitive series. I think the Trail Blazers would give the Lakers a 7-game series if they're healthy. I think the Mavericks can beat the Clippers. I really do.
You think Luka and the Mavericks can beat the Clippers?
Yes, and the reason I say that is because they provide a ton of matchup problems for any team, but especially teams like Indiana and LA that are big up front. Because Porzingis, he's 7 feet, but he steps out and shoots. I mean, do you remember the game they played against the Pacers where he hit 8 threes or something like that?
Yeah, Porzingis is a bad matchup waiting to happen for any team that the Mavericks play.
Exactly, and if Doncic, you think LeBron's coming in with a chip on his shoulder? Doncic, I don't think he's played in the playoffs yet.
He hasn't. Yeah.
So if Doncic takes them into the playoffs, and not only that, they have Rick Carlisle on the bench, and I know from being from his days coaching here that he is one of the best X's and O's guys in the league. The only coach I would put above him in terms of X's and O's is Brad Stevens.
For sure. Well, again, thank you for coming on the podcast. We're going to have you on for a few more episodes in the near future. I appreciate all your analysis. Look forward to working with you some more here on Pacer Station.
Outstanding.
Absolutely.
I look forward to it too, my man.
All right, Coach Day.
All right.
We'll holler at you later.
All right. Bye.
All right. So that's going to conclude podcast episode 3 and our first episode including Mr. Coach J. Loved having him on for the first time. We're going to have him on many more times in the future. He's now a part of Pacer Station. Let us know in the comments what y'all want below. Make sure you're subscribed and follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at PACERSTATION. Pacer Nation, we up. Deuces.